All right, Kevin McCloskey and Fred Gailey coming to you once again with the road to the next round. We'll call this one version 3.0. Fred, the Warriors have advanced to round 3 for the first time in several years, and this one's going to be a little different. We've got the past 2 weeks, round 1, round 2, we were playing the high-flying team, Southern Durham, and then Cleveland, these big offenses that are pass. Now it's different on 2 accounts. Number 1, we're playing Eastern Guilford, an old foe, an old familiar foe. And number 2, no more of all that high-flying stuff. They can throw the ball, but primarily Eastern Guilford's a blue-collar team. Absolutely.
Their bread and butter is ground and pound. They want to run the ball. They will throw the ball, but they definitely want to run the ball behind a huge offensive line and some very speedy backs, a variety of speedy backs.
And so since we are so familiar with them, let's approach this in a little bit different way. Our fans know about them. They've been through the first game. We've seen them play. We know their scores. But let's go back and revisit the first game and then talk about why Eastern Guilford won that game. And then maybe flip the coins, play devil's advocate. If anybody from Eastern Guilford's watching this, no disrespect intended, but we want to say why we think Western Alamance can legitimately win the playoff game.
Absolutely.
All right, so round 1, back mid-season, both teams coming in. Western had lost once. Eastern Guilford had 0 losses. Our only loss was to Butler, which really wasn't a loss if you look at it that way. Eastern won on a last-second play, an interception in the end zone. And that game, to me, the reason why they won was twofold, but they're very close, they're very tied together. Number 1 was they were able to run the ball extremely successfully, 219 yards, primarily between Zion Walker and then
Bryant Barr.
Thank you for that, Fred. Bryant Barr. They're the main gainers on the ground. 219 yards on the ground. And more importantly, or at least as importantly, a lot of those yards were in third down situations. If it was 3rd and 2, they got 3. If it was 3rd and 3, they got 4, etc., etc., etc. They were able to convert and keep drives alive. Now, from your perspective, what else did you see that allowed Eastern to win that game?
Well, touching on the running game, I thought that Eastern was very successful controlling the line of scrimmage. They have a very big offensive line, and I thought that their offensive line, when they had the ball, controlled the line of scrimmage. They were also successful. I saw them spin out of several tackles with a little spin move. I saw Walker and Barr both do it. They broke several tackles. So that's what I saw. First and primarily, anytime in the run game, that big offensive line was able to get their play behind their pads and get their hands on the defensive linemen and turn them and create holes. And then the running backs took advantage of their speed, hit the holes hard, and honestly, Western probably didn't tackle as well as they normally do in that game. They didn't wrap up quite as well, didn't get the guy down at the first contact. So Eastern was able to get a lot of yards after contact. And I thought that put them in a situation where a lot of times they were playing ahead of the chains. They had some 2nd and 3rd and shorts as opposed to in longs, where maybe they would have had to pass. And I thought that offensively for Eastern Guilford, that's what enabled them to move the ball down the field, and they had some very long drives. It wasn't big plays, it was just sustained plays of 4 yards, 5 yards, 7 yards, 4 yards, 5, and that was repeated, and they were able to move the chains very successfully that way.
Yeah, I agree completely. You mentioned their offensive line. They're obviously very big. We saw a very big offensive line for Southern Durham, huge, bigger than even Eastern Guilford. Where Eastern Guilford separates themselves is those guys aren't just big, they're athletic and they're good. So props to their offensive line.
Very good.
Other things in the first game, I don't know, I don't have the stats, I couldn't find the stats exactly, but from what I recall, Eastern Guilford played, and you used the word, a very clean game. I don't recall a ton of penalties against Eastern Guilford, and from what I remember, they had 0 turnovers compared to us with 4. When you lose a turnover battle by 4, you're going to be hard-pressed to win any game.
Absolutely. I think I don't know if that was the only game, because I have not been at all Western's games that they lost a turnover battle this year, but they were -4. Eastern had no turnovers, Western had 4, all interceptions. A couple of them maybe a little fluky, a couple of them were just, honestly, like the last one in the end zone was just an outstanding individual play.
Yeah.
And that happens. And so in this game, I think Western has to look to get some turnovers and limit their turnovers, because if they lose a turnover battle -4, it's hard to win a football game against a good football team.
Yeah, let's talk about some numbers for a minute before then we'll start flipping the tables and talking about why Western might win. Across the entire season, the only stats I could get were total stats. Like for Eastern Guilford, total points they scored was 442. For Western Alamance, 536. So offensively, against relatively the same schedule, we put up roughly 90 more points than them, or probably 7 or 8 points a game when you average it out across the season. So maybe a touchdown more. Defensively, Eastern Guilford was a little bit better than us. They held opponents to 147 points. We were at 189, so there you're talking about a 40-point swing. You know, they have 4 shutouts, we had 2. So very, very evenly matched teams. Now, defense is also their strong suit. However, I was surprised. I did go back and check the stats for that one game. Western had an extremely effective offense that game, rushing for 166, passing for 250. And keep in mind, and we all know this, that Christian Daniels was out.
Yes, he was.
So, and from my perspective, and this is getting into why Western has a chance to even win. Jake Christman played the game of his life that game. A great, fantastic game. However, by moving Jake from wide receiver to quarterback, we were, not only did we lose our quarterback, we also lost one of our best wide receivers along with Penix, and a defensive back in Christian Daniels, who had an interception and a couple of pass breakups in round 2. So losing Christian was like 3 players in one.
Well, you've heard me say it before. Penix, Chrisman, and Daniels, I call them the 3 horsemen. When you take one of them away, it allows the other team well, first of all, on defense, it takes one of your best athletes off the field. And then on offense, once again, one of your best athletes off the field, but it allows the Eastern Guilford defense, or any defense that's playing Western, to focus more on Jake or Penix. And Penix is going to draw the double coverage a lot. He's going to draw the safety over the top a lot. He's going to be the first focus of any defense that plays Western. So when you have to move Jake out from out wide or the backfield and don't have Christian with his legs back there, because you've moved Jake back there who has good legs as well, you take away a weapon. And anytime you take away a weapon from an offense, it's going to hurt them, and it's going to make it a little bit simpler for the defense. And that's what I think happened there a little bit.
And in that first game, Western, to me, was most effective when they were spreading the ball around. When we tried to get the ball to Penix overall, Barr and Artis were keen on him. They picked off 2 that were coming right to him. But when we started mixing in, Trayvon Williams, Perry Greason, DJ Kirkland, when those guys start catching the ball every once in a while, then it really opens things up and Western becomes really dangerous.
Well, that's when Western is their most dangerous, is when the ball is getting spread around. Obviously, they're going to get touches to Penix. They're going to get touches to Chrisman. But when Keontae is running the ball, when Trayvon or DJ or Perry are catching the ball and getting some looks, it forces the defense to pay attention to them a little more, not necessarily swing the safety over to Penix's side every time. And it opens things up. And then Penix will get more, or Chrisman will get more.
Yeah. Just spread them out a little bit and then pound Keontae up the middle. We saw last week what he can do. We know we've seen every game what he can do. He is like he's a miniature Mike Tolbert. He pounds, and by the third quarter, fourth quarter, he's wearing on you.
He ran the ball very effectively against Eastern Guilford the first time, I thought, too. He got some really tough yards, moved the pile, which is hard to do with those big thighs, as I call them, those big, and that big squat that he has. He can move a pile, so he can be very, very effective against a big physical team like Eastern Guilford. And their defense is very good. They are a hard team to go east-west on you because they have so much speed and they do have size as well. So they're a good defense. They're a formidable foe, and Western will just have to spread the ball around and keep it varied, have a balanced pass rushing attack, and get the ball to other guys.
Yeah. Now defensively, Western did a pretty good job against Eastern the first go around. Actually, a very good job. Because of the turnovers, put us some pressure on our defense. But we've got to be able to stop that run. Now, a lot of times when you play a running team, you like to say, well, let's force them to do what they don't like to do. Let's force them to pass. So I think Eastern's a little different. Eastern probably would prefer to run, but they're not bad at passing either. So we do have to stop the run, but we can't commit 8 in the box.
It's tough because, well, first off, Eastern Guilford plays a 2-quarterback system. They either put Graves at quarterback, who throws the ball a little more, or Barr at quarterback, who, not that Graves is a bad runner, but Barr is probably a more effective runner. So I think they tend to run the ball a little more with Barr and throw the ball a little more with Graves. And they tend to go with the hot hand. I don't know that you can make them one-dimensional, but the one thing Western definitely has to do that I saw in the last games, they've got to tackle a little better. Yeah. They can't allow all the yards after contact, and the defensive line is going to have to hold the point of attack. The defensive ends, Eastern Guilford's tackles, we mentioned, are big. Clapp and Walker are big bodies. Clapp's got really long arms. I think he's going to App State. Walker's just a sophomore, so you're going to have to see him a couple more years. So it's 6'4", 330 or something like that. Yeah. Defensive ends, if it's are going to have to play. I call it the Von Miller. Josiah's going to have to play at that low pad level and keep the guy's arms off him and get around that edge, and not, because if you let those big tackles engage you and get their arms on you, it makes it very hard because they're big, strong guys with long arms. So they're going to have to use their hands and keep their hands off of them.
Okay, Fred, so we've talked about the X's and O's and the yards and all that stuff. Now let's switch to the game itself. Round 3 of the playoffs, we were just talking, we're in the final 8. Each team is in the Elite 8, and as you stated to me a while ago, if you're in the Elite 8, you got a legitimate shot at winning the state championship.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Go ahead, I'm sorry.
I was just going to say, I've looked at the brackets, and I've kind of watched all the teams this year in 3A, 3 AA. In this case, we're playing 3 AA. And I've looked at the brackets and who's left. And when the brackets first come out, you see a team or two that you go, they're not going to get there. Well, of all the teams left, there's 8 teams left. They can all do it. Every team, if you're still standing right now, you can win the state championship.
Yeah. So let's talk about this game. It's a little bit rainy and cloudy tonight here Tuesday night. By Friday, everything clears. The weather gets cold, so it's going to feel like football. Probably temps in the 40s, but it's going to be clear skies. And I'm telling you, Fred, from the chatter I'm hearing, this is like, to me, it's like the old Rocky movies. Remember Rocky 1 and Rocky 2 back when this is Rocky 2, and I think the crowd from Western Alamance is going to come in droves. And I think the Eastern Guilford Wildcat fans are going to show up. I did find one stat on Max Preps. It says their stadium seating capacity is 3,500. You better double that for Friday night.
It's going to be a big crowd. I've heard the Eastern Guilford folks say they're expecting the biggest crowd they've had in their history. Like you mentioned earlier, they're selling tickets online.
Yeah.
Never have seen that for a high school football game, where they're actually selling tickets online, early sales to the students in the offices and stuff like that, but not online like this. So it's going to be a big crowd. I would get there early. Parking could be an issue. I plan on being there about 6 o'clock myself.
Yeah, so bring your cowbells, bring your voices, because last week in Cleveland you guys were outstanding. And again, I like the idea of going on the road. It's going to be a road game, but I don't think there's going to be a lot of a home field advantage. It's going to be pretty equally matched on both sides, on the field, in the stands, in the programs, and may the best team win.
Absolutely. It'll be a great game. I look forward to it.
See you next week, Fred.
See you.